right, shall we just start somewhere? What does it take to fully assemble a car from a bare shell? Here we have a bare shell back from the body shop. They literally picked it up with a forklift and put it on this pallet. Which I then dragged over to the middle of my trailer. And there it has sat as I built the subframes. And so, what kind of construction project is this? Well, you know, there's a number of ways to raise this up to be able to apply the subframe. Let's see if I can show the interesting bits, not too deep and technical, otherwise it'll never end. But interesting blips of what it takes to fully assemble a car. In this case, a little Mini. So, is that a real car? Well, questionable. But you know, we like these old things, and when you assemble them this way, they get a personality. All right, so if you start at the front, pretty much the first thing to put on the body of one of these is the steering rack. I'm sure people have forgotten and happily put the subframe in, maybe even with the engine in it, and then realized, oh crap. In this case, we're starting with the rear just for ease of the way it was in the trailer and the ease and lightness of building and moving the rear subframe around. We can see this is getting the red springs, and they have some tricks to them. I've learned to overcome the deficiencies that most people harp on, and a lot of people hate them. But there's some simple things you can do to take out the weirdness. But before the subframe goes in, the nuts and bolts of it, it is an old body. And even though this is going to be assembled better than a new car would be, by a fair measure, you know, it is old, and we start out by cleaning the, let's face it, it's in the bottom of a well there. There's going to be some rust in those threads. In this case, they look very good. But we also have had undercoating and various other things applied, and so the threads really need a cleaning. All right, not too deep. All right, a day or three later, we're going to try to do this assembly of a Mini in short bursts from scratch. I mean, there's not a washer attached to that body shell. Pre-assembled subframe. I think I explained the little C-clamps. That sets a limit to the droop, because this stuff will fall out if you inadvertently just let the suspension droop without a shock or another method of keeping it all there, such as that. But if you do this sort of a thing with a floor jack that has wheels, you know, when you're moving something like this, either the jack has to be able to roll or the car has to be able to move. And in this case, we do not want the car moving the way we have this thing perched up here safely on my trailer. You know, that entails, you can see here, I kind of set it up, and we can show what method we're using. The 2x6 going across the trailer at about the right height to set the subframe on. Now, as I put this together, I ran, that's kind of be too wide with those wheels on, so I could either get a smaller board to support the subframe while I line it up, or I'll just take the wheels off. I think I'll just do that route at this point. But, you know, we can see the thing is supported safely. It's on this old, large shipping pallet, but I've reinforced it crush-proof in places, and taking into account some slight additions to the body, clearance-wise. We couldn't go any higher back there without addressing that. And so this proved to be just enough to roll the wheels and tires under. I will continue here with lining it all up once we have the rear subframe bolted. It's literally, there's 2 bolts here, 2 there, 2 here on the other side. That's attached. We can put the back of the car down. So after another day or 3, as various components assembly continues, I have bolted the rear subframe in, put the rear wheels on, put the car down on its rear wheels. And you can see over here, by carefully lifting it from the, this is usually, of course, the halfway point for raising a whole side. But without the engine, without anything, it's considerably lighter up here, so there's no danger of it rocking on that pivot. And with 2 of these little jacks here, it's enough to lift the car up high enough, pull the body pallet out. When you get to the front of the Mini, pretty much the first thing that has to go on, steering rack. This is originally a right-hand drive. We're continuing it as a right-hand drive. And so I'm going to make this safe with a couple more jack stands. And we've got our installation kit waiting. We'll put the steering rack on, and then we'll continue and see how the front subframe fits under there. Four wheels, front and rear subframe, a few raindrops, and a nice balance point with my tilt trailer. I think if it gets going, it ought to come to a stop. It's a slight hill. How about that? All right, how do we put this? If you've got a regular car, don't try rolling it off a trailer like this. This is not a super steep, but steep enough that a regular car will run you over. Let's see if I can avoid having the Mini run me over. I've done this before with a even more assembled one, but it'll either be mildly interesting or hilarious. Stay there. So because it's so light, you can just push it off. Whatever stop you stops out of the way. Nothing too hilarious. There it sits.